Well, Sarah, you're very welcome, and thanks a million for being with us. It's super to have you here, and I suppose the first thing is to say congratulations, a brilliant start to Collingwood for the first win, and obviously with the season, you had a good start in the pre-season, beating North Melbourne, but what has the reaction been like today for the first win for Collingwood?
Oh, it's been amazing. I suppose last night I was watching the girls myself. I had a small bit of an injury setback, so to watch the girls and admire, I suppose, from afar and see that real reward for effort and knowing all the work that goes in, it was just amazing. And so good to beat Carlton. I suppose they're like, your good old rivals, Collingwood and Carlton. So to watch that, and in Icon Stadium, which is like a real historic ground, there's a really nice feel to it. So there's a really good atmosphere at the game, and was very proud to see how well the girls expressed themselves last night. And on to the next game now. I suppose it's always one game at a time, and you just stay kind of grounded in the process, but we're absolutely thrilled with the win.
And so you mentioned there a shoulder injury that's affected yourself. What's the update on that, or what's the situation with the injury?
Just actually an injury setback, just kind of a niggle in my shoulder and a small niggle in my quad. So it's kind of like, it's one area down here and then another underneath as well. So it's kind of, it set me back a small bit, but I would like to think that I will be on track for round 2. So I'm progressing really well at the moment, and I've been rehabbing maybe twice a day, getting physio every day. So like I'm doing all I can to get there, but I seem to be on track for round 2. Obviously it will depend on how I progress through training tonight and training next week, but fingers crossed.
And I suppose, Sarah, speaking about training, what is the training schedule like? Or can you give us a bit of an insight into what happens with, I suppose, individual training and then the commitment for the team training as well?
So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday morning is essentially like group sessions. So we would meet at around 4:30 in the evening, and people would do their prehab, get physio, get taped. There would be meetings, analysis, individual edits until probably 6:30, and then we would have a team meeting for probably half an hour, and then we'd go out and warm up between at around 7 o'clock, and we'd probably be off the track by 9 o'clock. And then training could consist of anything from like conditioning, running to tackling, to kind of a combination of skills, goal kicking, all that. They kind of break it into backs, midfields and forwards, which is not really something you would do in Gaelic. And then you go to your line coaches, and you kind of just like, there's a lot of structures and stuff, and a lot of like, I suppose, education around the game to take in, more so than there would be in a football game. And then you go back inside, you do get into the ice baths, the cold baths, people get physio, and you get some food, and then you might have like a quick meeting, and then you'd be out the door by probably about 9:30. So it's probably from about 4 to 9:30 in the evening, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then Tuesday, Thursday is you do a gym session early in the morning, and then you might do a light skill session, which might be half an hour to 45 minutes of just like, technical stuff, things that you want to zone in on yourself. There'd be always a coach there to do that with you. And then Saturday morning is a gym session and skill session as well.
Right, geez, full on. And I suppose, Sarah, you mentioned there the track and the running, but I know you have a new nickname out there as well as Rowe. They're definitely calling her the time trial queen. So you might fill us in on what your personal best is there on the records, the hearts you've broken over in Australia.
Oh, I absolutely, like, people think because you might do okay in a fitness test that you like running. I'm like, you never like running. Running is horrible, no matter what way you look at it. I was like, if you could hear the thoughts going through my head when I'm running. But yeah, the 2K time trial, and we do a yo-yo test as well. So we do that normally before Christmas and then after Christmas. So you're always kind of under pressure when you go home for Christmas to kind of, you obviously have to do your training. It's your work. You have to get it done. But you're under pressure to beat that score as well. And to, I think with tests like that, with fitness tests, it's always like it's a test of the controllable. So like a lot of the girls get really anxious about those tests, but it's purely down to the fact that if you do your work, you should get better. You should progress. So yeah, I don't like the 2K time trial, but I do my best anyway.
Yeah, well, 6:54 is a great time, Sarah, and you can be definitely proud of that. I think if anyone can emulate that success, they'll be doing well. You mentioned there as well, I suppose, about work, but definitely like you have a lot of experience in psychology as well, and with cognitive thought and behavioural therapy and that kind of thing. So have you been able to, I suppose, keep that going as well, or from a time commitment point of view, has that sort of taken a side role?
Yeah, no. So when I was back in Ireland, I'd 6 months there when I was teaching as well at the same time, and I was traveling up and down to Mayo, and then I was also trying to do like my training for Collingwood as well. So it got very full on, and I wasn't able to commit to as much. But I'm kind of jumped back onto I suppose taking on more clients and busier now that I've got back out to Australia. But it's definitely something I'm gonna kind of push over the next couple of weeks. I've been taking clients kind of either morning or evening time is what suits best, because it's, you know, opposite schedules. But yeah, it's been great. I love working with people. I love understanding, I suppose, where people came from. You know, we are who we are because of the experiences we've lived, and I get so much out of it myself, and I just enjoy, I suppose, seeing the results from other people as well.
Brilliant. And going back to the game itself, Sarah, how much did you find it was so different, I suppose, going from Gaelic football, and obviously you have huge proficiency in soccer as well. How much of a change was it to kind of adapt to the skills of AFLW, I suppose, and the demands it sort of brought, and the challenges that came with it?
Yeah, at the start it was definitely quite challenging, because, you know, you're used to essentially having grown up playing a game that you know, have natural ability, you've an instinct, a natural instinct, because you've grown up playing it your whole life. And then you come out here and you're like essentially starting from the ground up. You're like that kid in PE class who can't do anything right. Like, you're like, everything is like, the ball is going everywhere. You're like thinking to yourself, why did they bring out this Irish person who's never going to be able to get there? So like, you have all these thoughts that are going through your head at a certain time. And then it's like, you know, I remember I journaled like the whole way through, I suppose, and I always do journal, but through the process of my first year, even if I was to look back on what I wrote, like, it was like, you know, things like, you'll get there, you just need to be consistent and persistent over time. So it would be like, you know, just doing small things really well. I'd make sure, I remember the first year it was like, you know, make sure you're as fit as you can be, as strong as you can be, and, you know, your nutrition's right, your mindset's right, like all those things are right, so that the game will look after itself then. So you have all them areas ticked off. So you're like, at least I can back myself on them, so they will give me confidence. And now I have to fine tune on the, you know, the basic skills, make sure the basic skills are done really well, and then the education of the game. So it's like breaking it all down into small achievable parts, and then you get there over time. After like 5 or 6 weeks, you start to become really comfortable, and then you make a few kind of like, I suppose, errors in games, like, you know, rule kind of like rule errors, I suppose. Yeah, technical. And then as I said, I was like to the coach, like, I need to be told when I'm doing something well, and I need to be told when I'm doing something wrong, because either way, I sometimes don't know. So I don't know if, you know, me taking on a player and giving a go, and again, is that what you want? What do you want? And so sometimes people watch it and think, oh, it should be played like this. I'm like, yeah, but you're watching it like it's a Gaelic football game. It's actually not. Like, as in, there's similarities, yes, but like the physicality of the game, like, you know, as soon as you get the ball in your hand, you have if you have prior opportunity to get rid of the ball and you get tackled, you know, it's a free against you. So there's loads of things that people watch and kind of say, why did that happen? But it's like, if you understand the game, it really is a different game. But there's similarities in terms of like the agility of the players, the running ability, obviously kind of the movement. I think that's where Irish players gain a lot, is like, you know, their speed, their agility, and their ability to take on players. But then the physicality, you know, sometimes we shy away from that, whereas you see the Australian girls. We also go in sometimes at the start, you go in quite vulnerable. So like, when you're playing a football game, you'll go in with your head up because you're wondering what you're going to do next. If you do that in AFL, you just get smashed in the face. So like, even looking at Breed, or like the unfortunate injury that she got, it's like, if you're coming in, you're not protecting your body with your head under the ball as well, you can get injured very easily, and it's a gruesome game for injuries as well. So you really need to learn how to protect your body.
Yeah, going in open. And I suppose that intensity was seen definitely against Carleton. I mean, there were 4 goals in 7 minutes by the Magpies, you know, and it's a huge intensity to put in there. But the game was kind of slow to start, Sarah. And I suppose, is that something that comes from training, that maybe there is that plan in place that once one goal comes in, the next comes? And I suppose for Aisling Sheridan to get the first goal of the season was huge as well.
Yeah, I was absolutely delighted for Aisling, and she did the Irish crowd yesterday, and, you know, it's a great representation of, I suppose, what's to come from the Irish, I think. But it's kind of like essentially the last game of AFLW football that's been played is the last game that Ash and I have played as well. So like when you think about it, we went home and played the Gaelic season. They actually haven't played at all because they've been in strict lockdown. So to see the rustiness, it was probably expected, knowing that the girls, that's only essentially their second game in the last 6 or 8 months, whereas we went home and played games. So that's the part that I think, and that's the reason why I believe that it was rusty yesterday at the start. But it is a bit like that, like when you gather momentum in these games and you get goal after goal. And that was probably a low enough scoring game. So, you know, I hope there'll be more to come over the next couple of games.
And in terms of the players and competition, like 3 players made their debut, is there a lot of competition there to gain a place on the team and then to keep that jersey, I suppose, as well?
Yeah, well, there's always competition no matter what. Like, and if you look at yourself, like, you know, you're always going to be your worst critic. So like, you're always going to be pushing to strive standard, just to push standards. But like I always say, like, you're only as good as your last training session, never mind your last game. It doesn't matter. It takes a minute for you to do something wrong for someone to say, she's not playing well at the moment. Do you know? So like, you always have to be switched on to being like, at any point, any player at all is replaceable. It doesn't matter how good they are. I saw some of our bigger players last year who were injured, and literally someone one in, one out, you know, and that's just the way it goes. If it just either leaves spaces for someone else to come in, or someone else comes in and picks up the pieces, or it just someone else shines. Like there's always going to be that, and that's in every team, in every competitive team environment. Everyone's replaceable. So I think if you have that kind of mentality within the group, and you know that we all push each other, and I suppose even your job as an injured player, you know, your job is to make sure that you prepare the girls as best as possible, and that you push them and their standards as best as possible, so that ultimately the team gets success, because that's what it's about at the end of the day. So we all try push each other, and we have created a really good team culture like that. And even when it came to selection the last day, like, you know, sometimes obviously girls are disappointed, everyone's put in so much work, and you know, you've real empathy for the girls who don't get picked, but it's the girls who don't get picked, how they have to switch their focus and be able to be there for the girls, prepare the girls, and you know, put their arm around the girls and say, you know, you're ready today, like go for it, and give the girls confidence as well. And that's really important. It can be hard to do at times for some players, if you know, if you're extremely disappointed, but you have to put on that face to for the team. And when you can do that and say that the team can do that, you know, you're in a good team culture.
And with the team, Sarah, like you seem to have settled very well, and obviously there's a great community spirit there around it as well. But how did you feel about the move of it and kind of the lifestyle for Australia? How far, you know, how have you settled into it so far, I suppose?
Oh yeah, I'm the laughing stock of the team anyway. That's coach's pet, they call me. But I think they get a great kick out of the Irish, like, because you know, we say what's on our mind, we don't care. Like, we're just like, you know, I'm like, we are who we are, we're different, we do things differently, and we take people by surprise now and again because we say and do things differently. I think that's kind of entertaining for the group at times. But how did I find settling in? I actually really enjoyed it. I think there was an awful lot of self-growth in it. I spent an awful lot of time on my own the first year because my housemates and stuff were working full time, and I feel like I kind of just, like, I adapted well. Like, I had to put myself out. I was uncomfortable in so many situations, and you are really uncomfortable at times over here in situations, because like, it's a different culture, it's a different place, you don't have your family, your friends around, you don't have that comfort. But now they've become that for me, they've become my family, they've become my friends. So now I walk into the club and I'm like, I know everyone and we all get on great and like things are great. But before that, I suppose at the start, it was like, you know, you're watching yourself, you're like, they're analyzing me, I'm analyzing them, I'm trying to figure out what they're like. So it's like getting to know the people around you and the characters, and knowing could you say things, could you not, what way you had to approach things. So you second guessed yourself a lot, definitely in the first year. But now that I'm comfortable, obviously, and have built them relationships, and they know what I'm about, and you know what I stand for, and I know what they stand for, it's you know, it's much more easy to kind of walk into the environment.
And when you had to do your quarantine, you were definitely very creative in the way you spent your time, Sarah. I know it was tough, obviously, being by yourself, but you managed to bring the oval ball into it and to make sure you're getting a bit of practice in while you're in the hotel room.
Yeah, smashing the oval ball against the wall. I'd say the security guards hated me anyway. But I was like, any human interaction was good. So even when the security guard knocked on my door, I was like, how are you? But no, it was, yeah, it was actually fine. I genuinely enjoyed it. Like, I was like, it is what it is. I can't go outside for 2 weeks. And that's the thing. You look out the window and you're like, it's a distant memory that I can go outside. You just adapt and like you find a routine and a rhythm. And once I found that and I could train, we had bikes and we had weights and stuff. So once I could train and do that, I was happy. If I couldn't train, I suppose that would have been probably the hardest part. But to be able to train and be able to kind of order in food and like order in shopping and stuff like that was great. And it was also a good time to, I suppose, take a step back and reflect on what's happened over the last kind of like 8 months to a year in terms of sport, in terms of COVID, in terms of life, in terms of everything, and kind of figure out what you want to do going forward. And like, you don't always have the time to do that. And I suppose you weren't accountable to anyone else but yourself. So that it was kind of a bit like a retreat in a way. I felt like I came out kind of refreshed in a way, mentally, and I was ready. And like, I've never really taken that break. And it's the same with injuries. Like, you don't take these breaks until you're kind of forced to take them. And then when you do take them, you're like, there is so much you can learn and, get better in different areas, things that you can't focus on when life is life and things are going 100 miles an hour.
And Sarah, just in terms of the facilities, there were open training sessions where the AFL players of Collingwood trained with the AFLW as well. Is that something that happens often? Like, would the training facilities be shared, or are there separate ones for AFL and AFLW?
So normally we share facilities, and like, we're in the gym, say morning time, then the boys would come in at like 8, and then we'd have access from 4 onwards. And like, there'd be interaction there, and the coaches' offices will kind of be all close together, and our coach would sit in on the men's coaches team meetings and stuff, and they tried to play kind of like a similar style play, and the kind of one club and one voice, I suppose, mentality. But at the moment, obviously with COVID, there's another gym kind of in the same facility. So we use that, the men use the other gym, and we're allowed in on certain days. And it's just much more, it's much more rigid than it was before. But it used to be very flexible, and we'd all kind of share the facilities and you can use them whenever you want.
And with COVID, have you found there are a lot of changes like that, even with the outdoor trainings or the time schedules and that, or has it made much of a difference in outdoor training with COVID?
Well, like, we had to get tested every week, and if you've any signs or symptoms or anything at all, like, you can't come to training. And then outdoor training, there's a bit of social distancing when we're in a group, when we're talking to our coach Steve at the start of training sessions and stuff like that. But other than that, it's quite normal. Like, it is quite normal. Like, we're cautious, and there's someone to clean the gym after we use it, and we're all aware and conscious. But the reality is there hasn't been cases over here over the last couple of weeks. So, it's been really refreshing that way, I suppose.
Brilliant. Sarah, I know your mother had lots of words of advice when she was doing her No Proving, Just Moving, part of the 20 by 20 campaign. But I'm sure if there's a bit of a message you have for anyone at home, or especially for anyone watching from Mayo, is there anything you'd like to say to them from Australia?
Oh, I tried to get G-Bam on the other day. I was like, Mum, please, will you do an Instagram live with me just for the laugh? Like, I was like, people would love it. And she's like, no one's asking for me, lovey. Like, they wouldn't be asking for me. They're not bothered about me now. I'm old news. And I was like, you're not old news. I was like, we'll get you on again. But no, Mum is just an absolute breath of fresh air. Like, she's just such a good perspective on things. And like, she just sees the good in everything. And it really brings out the best in everyone that's around her. Like, I always look at her, and like, her friends come over, and like, everyone comes to her for problems because she has that kind of humor, but she's also able to be really empathetic as well. But I think what was one of the favorite ones? It was one of the favorite ones I think that got the most response was love children most when they deserve it least. So a lot of people loved that one, and also people liked the stories that she told about me when I was a teenager, but we don't need to repeat them because I wasn't an A1 student anyway.
And Sarah, it's obviously very exciting this season. You've had a great start for Collingwood in the first game of the season, but with 14 Irish players out there now, it must be exciting for you as well to see that the sport is growing, with Irish players even coming out, and obviously the excitement for the Australian players playing with them.
Yeah, 100%. To see the Irish girls come out, you always watch with a closer eye when they are playing, and you're kind of like, intrigued to see how everyone's progressing. And like, everyone has done really well. I see no reason why more Irish won't come out. Obviously, COVID has put kind of a bit more of a restriction on that, and I think there'd be a lot more Irish girls who would have got picked up this year only for COVID. But then saying that as well, the draft has gotten very competitive as well. And the younger girls coming in every year, I've noticed how good they are and how much better they're getting, and they can kick with both left and right feet. So it's kind of like, you know, do they take a younger player or do they take an Irish player? An Irish player, obviously, you have to kind of breathe them into the system and take 6 or 7 months to kind of get them right. But I do see, I see a huge area for growth there, and I think that there'll be a lot more out here over the next couple of years.
Well, Sarah, thanks a million for talking to us. Look, we wish you all the best. We're looking forward to seeing you in round 2, and we hope the shoulder and the quad both clear up quickly enough for round 2 anyways. But we wish the best of luck in the season, and for the Magpies as well to keep up their winning streak. Thanks a million, Sarah.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks, Sarah.